Today I have brought you the hot hatch of electric vehicles. This is the all-new Cupra Born today in our driving review, and we start here directly with the design because unlike the Sibling, the VW ID.3, which sits on the same platform, this one here has kind of like a supercar look in the front, Cupra badging and the very polarizing Cupra logo indeed, and these very nice copper accentuations both in the logo and also in the lower bumper, so really sporty look in the front. Vapor Grey is the color here for today. It has a kind of matte nuance, but it's not really a matte color, but very interesting. And there's also a nice Aurora Blue, for example, available, which also works well with the copper contrast. So styling wise, definitely already sportier. And also if you compare it technology wise to the VW ID.3, a little bit stiffer suspension here, for example. Overall, also a little bit more horsepower output. Soon more to that, because there will be the e-boost version. Here's the tire squeaking.
It's a little bit like a go-kart.
Wow, yeah, it's indeed, it's really like a go-kart. Man, this is so much fun, and holy moly, what is this? 4.32 m or 170 inches is the length here, compact dimensions. Sits a little bit lower than the VW ID.3 and offers wheels from 18 to 20 inch. These ones are the biggest ones. Also available in different stylings if you want, again with copper contrast. Then main design line here, rather simple design, but that's actually quite likable here on the height of the door handles. I think this color works very well with the vehicle, with a huge contrasting sporty lower bumper here as well. It comes also optionally with the DCC, the adaptive suspension. We also have it equipped here today. This will be very interesting in the driving. And recharging will be here 11 kilowatt AC or 125 kilowatt DC if you have the biggest battery, which is at 77 kilowatt hours net. There's also a 58 kilowatt hour battery, which will be cheaper, and the smallest battery will come with 45 kilowatt hours net. Here in the rear you can see light strip goes all the way through. That's a very cool design feature, and once again the copper Cupra accentuations right here, and this is here to fold the logo when you will open that hot hatch, which we will do very soon. Here in the lower part there's this huge dark contrast, and if you have a bright color this appears really contrastish. If you, for example, have a darker color like the Aurora Blue, it appears, you know, less screaming out. So this is one let off, I think, of that brighter color. Otherwise in the front it's definitely the best to go for, but here in the rear not so happy with this design feature. As for the horsepower figures, you will have a 150 horsepower version, then a 204 horsepower version, and exclusively here so far for the Cupra Born a 231 horsepower spec, which is then called the e-boost spec. You'll have additional power then, especially in that Cupra mode, so the most powerful one, and you have around 7 seconds in the acceleration figure. Then it really depends on the best or the fastest combination would be the 58 kilowatt hour battery with the 231 horsepower. But here today we have the biggest battery, which promises more range. But then again, it's a little bit slower, but it won't have such a big effect. Official range can be around 500 kilometers or 300 miles. But is this really true? We will find out the real consumption, the real energy consumption in the driving part. And here we have another color for you. This is Quasar Grey, also very stylish with the copper accentuations right here. And with this vehicle we can also explain to you, well, what about this e-boost and how can you configure it? So you would take the 204 horsepower version, then add the performance pack. The performance pack comes with 20-inch wheels, the 27 horsepower Peak Plus, so then at 231 horsepower. And when can you use it? When you press the Cupra mode button on the steering wheel, and then this e-boost is available. And this very vehicle comes on top, not only with the 20-inch wheels, but with a special 20-inch wheel, here also with a special design. And these tires here are then not only 215 mil, but 235 mil, and that then enables you to put the ESC to off completely. You can see here also it has these additional flaps, because the lawmaker says, yeah, when the tires are even wider, it doesn't, you know, must not exceed here the chassis. Therefore, we have the additional mud flaps here, and the same also accounts then for the rear. Yeah, it's a little bit pathetic, but that's again not the manufacturer but the lawmaker here, that you have to put this additional thing on top. Then again, it's the law. It's the law. So very interesting that by this then you can go from ESC on to ESC Sport and then even to ESC off, but only with these specific wheels and even wider tires. And will it have an effect on driving? We will compare in the driving part the 215mm and the 235mm, and maybe we'll also play a little bit with the ESC. And super interesting here with the Quasar Grey vehicle, you can see this has a unicolor style in the rear. So this lower contrasting insert here is then in this case in the vehicle color, and that also tells us that the Quasar Grey is used on the other vehicles as a contrast color in this area. And to me, the other colors we had today look more striking from the front, but this one here I like best from the rear because this unicolor look is just more, fluent, I would say. I don't like when it's here in the contrasting insert, but that's maybe just personal preference. What about you? Which color would you pick from the ones we presented to you today already? And very interesting, while Seat will stay confined to Europe, Cupra wants to roll out globally. They have already launched in Mexico and even heard there are some grey imports from Mexico to the US, individual cars. And we can today officially announce that Cupra is going to Australia. So greetings also to our Australian fans here on Autogefuehl. So they want to have this as an approach to the overall Asian Pacific market. And because they say that the Australian market also fits their brand image, so to speak. And we're really looking forward to that they're launching on even more markets worldwide. Will this work? What do you think about it? And do you want Cupra in your market? Let's discuss this in the comments. This is the car key. This side, yeah, we know these new car keys by the VW group and not that nice. But here, hey, no high gloss black on the other side. This kind of carbon fiber copper style. And this 5-year wheel, this is just a sticker for test car number 5. Test car number 5. Hey, and that's the door closing sound. Which sounds really solid. And on the inside, well, this one here is hard pack top part. That's, a little bit of lead off, but the rest is really very shiny. Here, look at that gray microfiber, really fitting to the exterior color as well. And then, yeah, this is really indeed different if you compare it to the VW iD.3. It's just fancier everywhere we look. Carbon, copper accentuations on the inside of the steering wheel, for example. This one cannot be bought animal free yet. They are working on a solution, also thinking about the microfiber surface. And also really cool that we have this special surface here, a soft one also on the dashboard here. And then my favorite are definitely the seats. Look at that. You get them with fabric or optional microfiber, always here in this bucket seat styling. Here also with these, kind of perforated styling as well, either in this gray styling, but you can also get it in a bluish tone, then of course even more fitting to the blue exterior color. And they also have a very high recycling share, so that's again a step further, more animal friendliness and also to more sustainability. Small digital instruments here. To me, it's a little bit cheap, the same as for the VW iD.3 and the iD.4 and iD.5 and so on and so on. Connected directly to the steering column like this. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's cost saving. They say, well, you look at the head-up display anyway. Yes, the head-up display does offer augmented reality, but still. Head-up display is always a nice option, and this is like a basic GPS information here, but it can even show augmented reality arrows, so you can have them somewhat projected and in your line of sight, some additional arrows. Seating position, 1m86, 6'1", still enough headroom left here. Electric controls for the seats we have here, and a manual enlengthment here of the lower part. And it's a fairly comfortable seating position, and they also keep me tight. Microfiber is also sticky enough, so it's kind of like a racy position. But is this car really racy? I can tell you, this driving part will be something special. Look forward to that. Interior overview, you see this is just more lovely than in the VW iD.3. Soft touch dashboard here, then a nice insert and really fitting grey interior styling with once again the copper accentuations and so on. Huge sliding cover in the lower part, adaptive cup holders, a lot of space in the middle console definitely. Then the steering wheel, perforated at the outside. Hashtag capacitive curves, capacitive buttons here, and while driving you tend to slide on these somewhat, especially if you drive a little bit faster, and they do give some sound feedback, but it's kind of weird. And you have some, you can only adjust the digital instruments like this and nothing more. Shifting lever, press forward for D, then backward for reverse, but I don't know. To me, it would be the other way around more logical, but what about you? And then D and B mode is about the brake recuperation, soon more to that in the driving part. Left side for the cruise control, it has this travel assist, so also can keep the lane very well. And then left side normal driving selector, and the right side you directly always hop to the Cupra mode, which gives you also the greatest e-boost. The infotainment system, while in the VW iD.3 you get a 10-inch screen, here you get a 12-inch. Yes, a 12-inch. Did I just say that? First of all here, no. These temperature sliders, they are not backlit, by the way. So at night you can't see them at all. And then, yeah, you slide or press like this and not practically use. The same goes for the volume right here. Yeah, and then the infotainment system software, they have worked on it a little bit, yes, but still. Have you seen that? 1, 2, 3, and then the map appears. So it's just too slow, and this car is launched in 2021, and this is not just, this is not 2021, that's the problem. So rather use the Apple CarPlay or the Android Auto, if you can load it, then use the map right here. And this is a nice integration like this. Interesting background here, right? So good integration indeed. Here, by the way, you can also access the climate menu, but then also, once again, too complicated. Why do I have to activate the steering wheel heating like this in 3 different levels while pressing on the steering wheel? Yeah, while stationary that might be okay, but while driving you definitely get mad. Inside of the door here, you really have to look what you're doing, right or left mirror control. The control interface is worse than we know from the classic or more older vehicles. And then here, really to save 2 buttons, to use this pressing knob and then to change the rear windows, I don't know. That in the name of cost savings, I don't get it. However, I also read some comments that when you have 2 more buttons right here, you sometimes would mistake which window you want to control, and that's maybe a good thing. What do you think about this? So yeah, indeed, a lot of the elements of the user interface are really disappointing. But the rest, styling-wise, material choice and so on, this is really awesome. I love that. And then we have a nice microfiber armrest right here. You can slide it backward and you can open it very widely and a lot of space underneath, and 2 USB-C chargers. And welcome to the rear, which is really spacious considering the length of the vehicle, using that EV platform. So a lot of legroom here, even for tall adults. 4 tall adults are no problem. And there's also this open space area here. So really using that purpose-built electric vehicle to USB-C chargers as well. And you also have the nice microfiber for the rear seats. And then it's a 4-seater, so then they put a hole in the middle. Okay. For what? I really have to think about this. Maybe you have an idea what to do with that in the rear seat of the vehicle. Really? Put it in the comments if you think so. Then, look at that. Cup holders, but not adaptive. And then you have a ski hatch right here. And here our secondary vehicle for today also is equipped with the optional panoramic roof. It's a fixed one, but it leaves a lot of light on the inside. If you're in the very hottest country or state, probably not a good idea. But all the others, it looks really cool, brings a lot of light. And then you have this cover also. And the funny thing is, usually, that way is to open and this way is to close. But here, because it comes from the front, this way you close it, and then it comes from the front and goes all the way to the rear. And this is then again a help against the sun. However, you can have a 5th seat here with a through bench, so that is possible. And here with the panoramic roof, it gets definitely closer as for the headroom, so it will not work when you're like 190 or 6'2". Then you should leave out the panoramic roof. And sitting here in the middle part is definitely stiffer, harder, and it doesn't work that well headroom wise then, but at least you have the possibility. And when can you go for these options? When you have the big battery, you cannot get the panoramic roof because of weight issues. And today we also didn't have the 5th seat, But in the future, you will also be able to order a 5th seat then for the big battery version. Now take your guesses. Does it have a frunk? No, it doesn't have a frunk. And rarely we have seen frunks in German electric vehicles, only with Porsche and then of course the Audi e-tron GT. Here you've seen normal start battery and fluid intake. But what's the reason, you know? Maybe Porsche with the German manufacturers has the official license to offer frunks. In this case, of course, both in their EVs and their combustion engine models. But we have a trunk right here. And oh, did you see that here? This cut out here for the tail lamps. That's very interesting, right? And then you can see cabin trolley also fits in the vertical way. So you have a good imagination of what's fitting in that trunk. And the length is about 80 centimeters or 30 inches. And the width here, a good meter or 40 inches. So that's actually quite decent. Underneath here, you have a storage for the charging cables. And then you can also load things through. And that's then in the total length here, about 1.50 meters. That's about 60 inches. Welcome to Thomas's e-performance driving lounge. Cupra Born, Cupra Profile, e-boost, let's go. Hey, and that's 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. And it was so quick that we actually missed our intersection. That's why we turn around. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. And we have a great road up ahead for us. And we can also accelerate out of a corner here now. It's also interesting because this one here is rear-wheel drive. What will it do? Nice. Hurt the tires a little bit, just a little bit. And that helped me really to get the car around and out of the corner. Yeah, that already speaks for the car and speaks for that rear-wheel drive concept, definitely. Steering input, really precise, super direct, very progressive, so I don't have to steer a lot actually. So that's a lot of fun. And you maybe also heard that, yeah, things tend to fly all over the vehicle here. The good thing is, I mean, it's a compact vehicle and you have a lot of weight with the batteries, yes, but they are put in the center of the vehicle, so you have a low center of gravity, and that's just so much fun. So the car is really hooking onto the ground, and I mean, this is yeah, I know. Cornelius also has a lot of fun, you know, when he hears the tires squeaking.
It's a little bit like a go-kart.
Wow, yeah, it's indeed, it's really like a go-kart. Man, this is so much fun, and holy moly, what is this? I mean, didn't expect it to be so racy. Even the traction control is drawn a little bit back in that Cupra mode. That Cupra mode is really something. So, yeah. I mean, when you have normal road driving coming up to later, there's not a big difference to the VW iD.3 for most everyday driving life situations. But here, like in this situation we have right here, oh, something happening because I touch the touch pads here on the steering wheel. Yeah, I had that recently with the Golf R as well. Wow, this performance driving part is really something. And I mean, if you compare it to the combustion engine brothers of these vehicles, you know, like a Ibiza Polo, or then go for the compact models like a Golf or Leon, this one feels so much sportier. And yeah, this low center of gravity with the performance from the electric drive. Wow, but really what they've done, you know, in the most special thing here, Cupra Born versus VW iD.3, they just tuned the whole car a little bit more loose, especially here on the, wow, what the view here as well, beautiful at the Montserrat Mountains, beautiful area. So you have the instant torque, you know, and that's really, really cool. So less than 7 seconds to 1 kilometers or 60 miles an hour. I hope that also worked somewhat. I have to check the video codes for that. Of course, the car will be a little bit sportier when you have the smaller battery. We have the bigger battery here now, and with the smaller battery, it's even a little bit faster. Of course, with the bigger battery, you have just more range, and I would tend, I mean, if it's in your budget, try to go for the bigger battery because the range figures are not that high yet overall with the electric vehicles. So better have that and just have a buffer to have even, you know, a little bit more range as it goes at the moment. So a lot of fun when you have some nice bends right here, and I think we wait just a little bit here. Then we can drive a little bit faster, just push it in the corners. And I mean, stopping and going again is already a lot of fun. Yeah, maybe after the motorcycle. The motorcycle is maybe more our speed or something. Now we go again, good acceleration, nicely on the gas. Yeah, it's really tuned in the Sporty now. I'm really surprised at how sporty it feels in that Cupra mode, and already we have caught up here to the other vehicles. As for the recuperation, by the way, when you are in the B mode, which I'm in the moment here, so I'm on the throttle, let go of the throttle, and the car is decelerating very notably. And you can argue for that could be a good thing, and it's also maybe a safety thing that when you want to go off the gas, you're already decelerating in speed. Then again, on the passengers, it might apply a lot of G-forces, so usually when you're driving with someone else in the vehicle, you try to be a little bit more gentle with the throttle. But you can also put to the D mode here, then the car is predominantly rolling. That's a good thing because it's a little bit more relaxing to drive. Then again, the car is rolling and you have to hammer the brakes for that. And when you really want to brake, there's still, first of all, recuperation happening. Also when I'm going down here now, then the real brakes are being applied. And I have to say, the brakes themselves here in this vehicle are to me not sensitive enough. Sometimes you really have to think about, I need to hammer them, and I think that shouldn't be the case. They should be a little bit more, supportive when you hit the brake pedal. As I was driving the first few kilometers earlier, I really was like, whoa, is that braking at some time? And so I really had to hammer them a little bit more. So that's maybe one criticism point I have right there. But yeah, so surprised about this super fun racy experience here in these winding corners. Well, it's rear-wheel drive, and you can also go from ESC on to ESC Sport, deep here in the menu under Smart Assistance. And then when we, for example, have some gravel here and you just start, then you also here feel the tires are a little bit, turning right there. So yeah, more or less drifting, but it's still, of course, controlling it a little bit. And the cool thing is, of course, when you have ESC Sport, which is again not recommended for wet roads and so on, but here then a little bit more play than even. So it is already playful in the normal setting, but when you are in the ESC Sport setting, the car just lets you do even a little bit more, and that's even more fun. So definitely a very special and unique thing about this vehicle. And this is a compact EV, and it really feels sports car-like, especially then with this setting, even more so than with that ESC Sports mode. So yeah, fun factor definitely really high. Yeah, it's so interesting that you can drive this car in such a, let's say, loose way. And now as a comparison, 235mm tires, and also here we can not only put ESC Sport but also the ESC Off mode together with the Cupra mode. Once again, what is the difference? This is the sportiest it gets here with our Hothacth EV. Let's go. Woo! That's, was 80 kilometers an hour. Really nice. And once again, ESC Off, please do not repeat. Don't do it on public roads. This is just for showcase purposes here for you, and also is dry road. So we can actually do that here, but definitely not to be recommended. Can someone put this typical stereotype as professional driver do not attempt? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now let's put these corners in. Once again, great steering here, so precise input. And we had that squeaking tires earlier from the little smaller wheels, and indeed when you're pushing this vehicle here in let's say more extreme situations, you feel that the wider tires just give you a little bit more support. It feels a little bit more grounded on the road, and you feel that the tires are not on the edge, so they give you a feeling like, okay, something more is possible. It's already sporty, but I don't care as a tire. You can push me even further. Whereas the little smaller wheels say like, yeah, you know, at some point, Thomas, don't exaggerate it. So that's the main difference then. And yeah, if you seek the sportier driving experience, then these wide tires indeed do a good job. If the ESC is on now or off, I mean, on dry road doesn't make too much of a difference when accelerating out because they hook up well anyway. I would rather, again, not recommend it. ESC Sport is a good setting in between. It lets you play around a little bit more, but you still have a safety net, you know, and the ESC offers more like, let's say you have off-road situations where you're really stuck, maybe you need to have some wheel spin, or you're on an ice lake and you want to drift around, or you really have an empty parking lot and just want to have fun with your car in a very safe environment, then the ESC off makes sense. Other than that, for normal public use, doesn't make much sense. But it's interesting that they offer this option, at least here in their pure EV. And once again, this one is so much fun. It's really great. It is indeed the new hot hatch of electric vehicles. And yeah, the fun factor is even higher than in the VW iD.3. That definitely speaks here for the new Cupra Born. Really happy as for the sporty driving fun with this one. At the same time, I've also seen that the range is actually very nice. And let's say, considering these sporty impressions, some more motorway driving is missing. And let's hop back to our normal vehicle. Whoa. Geile Sache. Ich würde jetzt mal sagen, dass wir mal so leicht Vorfahrt hatten, ne?
Ja, hatten wir.
Puh. Ja, manchmal ist Beschleunigen und Ausweichen die bessere Entscheidung als Bremsen, ne?
Ja. Mach mal Stop.
Ja. And now to some motorway driving. Let's once again use the Cupra mode, and then 100 kilometers to 120. Let's see. Plop, that's it. So even that here went reasonably quick. The top speed is 180 kilometers an hour or 110 miles per hour. So that's definitely also enough. Here now at the Spanish motorway, so no German motorway today, so we can't do it high speed. But here, reasonable noise insulation. It's really a very calming experience. You don't have any engine sound. The noise insulation is good. Due to the increased weight, you have a different shaking appearance, so to speak. The car feels a little bit more, like when running straight with a lot of weight, it feels a little bit bigger, or it feels like it would have a longer wheelbase, because of that extra weight. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And as I said earlier, in the Agile driving, you have the low center of weight because you have so much weight in the lower part of the car. So to me, the heavy weight of the battery is not that negative. Brian has a different opinion of that. Maybe you heard that recently in one of his reviews. Yeah, but that's why we're also here. We can still discuss about it. Would be looking forward to your comments as well. This added weight with the electric vehicles, do you think it can serve well, or does it do the opposite? Once again, here the turning indicators, they are very loud and also somehow, like say, unique. We didn't find them that good. So, like when Cornelius and I, we heard it for the first time, and we said like, what's that? So it doesn't sound that premium, it sounds a little bit cheap. Yeah, definitely. So
but it gets louder with the speed.
You think it gets louder with it?
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, it's extremely loud here now on the motorway indeed. Lane change here at higher speeds, however, very well done. So although we have the 20-inch wheels mounted, we still have good comfort from suspension. And yeah, it feels sportier than the iD.3, although this one already feels sporty. This one here a little bit sportier touch, definitely. So I think they've done a good job with that. But at the same time, you do not lose comfort. If you want an even softer ride or even more comfortable ride, stick with smaller wheels. Here the bigger wheels, they make a little sportier appearance then from the outside, but also influence the sporty driving characteristic. But you know, we have also the DCC here, the adaptive suspension, dynamic chassis control, and this one also majorly helps. So in the Cupra mode, you still have a lot of comfort, but just a little bit stiffer. And we go back to the comfort mode, then you definitely feel like, you know, some like smaller bumps on the road, that they are just, you know, softened out, so to speak. As an average consumption, we had about like 18 kWh and 1 kilometers. Earlier, when we were driving a little bit slower and more city traffic, we had even like more like 15 kWh and 1 kilometers. So something then between that, so around about 27 kWh and 100 miles. And that means, depending on how exactly you drive, how the temperature is. At the moment we have the AC running. Earlier we didn't have it running. So earlier we had really great consumption figures, more like towards 500 kilometers or 300 miles. Now with the higher speed in the motorway, AC running, we're getting more to this 400 kilometers or 250 miles. So if you say 400 kilometers, 250 miles, in most cases you can be certain that this works when you start at 100% of the battery. And yeah, maybe like if you have it a little bit more and it's very cold and you don't have the heat pump, there is one available, then it's maybe a little bit less, you know, but this 400 kilometer, 250 miles range is a good thing to calculate with here the biggest battery that is available we are driving today. Beautiful view once again to the Montserrat mountain where we earlier drove our Agile driving part. Yeah, this is a very special place, can only recommend to go there when you are in Barcelona. Definitely here also on the motorway, performing very well. Travel assist, by the way, set on the steering wheel. Sometimes a little bit confusing which button to really press in here. Yeah, and the capacitive BS indeed, or capacitive curse, hashtag capacitive curse. However, the system itself is really good. So here, keeping the lane. So here I'm doing nothing, the car is keeping the lane by itself. And it's also with the capacitive function that I just have to hold on basically here to the steering wheel. The car knows I'm still here, and also keeping the distance to the car in front of me. So this is level 2 autonomous driving, as good as it gets basically. And then there's also here the blind spot monitor, a very helpful feature. And when I use the turning indicator, it would also flash. I don't want to flash the car next to us here right now. So overall, really happy with the assistance systems. So we've tested 2 out of 3 battery versions, the big one 77 kWh net and the 58 kWh net. The weight difference is around 100 kilograms or 200 pounds. And well, driving wise doesn't have the biggest difference. You feel a little bit, you know, that especially the rear is swinging a little bit more with bigger battery just because of the increased weight, but not the major difference. Range wise, indeed a big difference, because you either land up with about, you know, like 400 kilometers, even up to 500 kilometers, so some 300 miles with the big battery, with the 77 kWh battery, and with the 58 kWh battery, you're more like between 300 and 400 kilometers, so something 200 miles plus. iD.3 or Cupra Born? I would say this one is more emotional to me. However, you can compare the iD.3 review right there, or of course other competitors we have prepared for you, either here with a click on the card or in the video descriptions or in the pinned comment. It's here there.